Welcome back to the GDevelop tutorial for beginners. This video we're going to look at creating a simple timer that's fairly adaptable, and I'll show you how to do it for one level, and you can probably adapt it for multiple levels and then have an end game screen that shows you your breakdown of level times. So this is going to be really simple. The first thing we need to do though is add in the game settings here. So I'll just do that again. I click this button here to bring up the project manager. Open game settings, open global variables. Now you're going to need to add one, and we're going to call this level 1 timer. Now if you've got multiple levels, you'll need to do one of these for each individual level, so we can keep track of them as we go through. There are other ways to do this. We could potentially use a list. I'm not 100% sure how lists are supported in GDevelop, if they're supported, so I'm just going to use multiple variables here. I'm going to apply that. I'm pretty sure I said 0 then. Yep. Level 1 timer. Note how you write this. If you write it all in lower caps, that's fine. If you put underscores in, that's fine. You can't have spaces though, so don't put spaces in. You shouldn't have spaces. And just make sure you remember how you actually wrote this, because it'll be important later. So with that done, we've got our global variable. The global variable is going to be accessible from any scene, which means we only want it to be accessible from two scenes, the start scene and the end scene. And so we have to make sure that they are, and a global variable does that. A scene variable is only accessible in the scene that it's in, and an object variable only accessible on the object that it's in, or instance variable here. Alright, so let's get started. We're going to switch over to here. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to add a new object. We're going to need one of these first, and it's going to be text. We're going to call it level timer, and we'll just set time 0 in there. We'll make it bold, and we'll click apply. And I'm going to bring that into the scene here. We'll try and snap these together like that. And we want to change this to be on the UI layer. Okay, so if we hit play, it should move around with our camera. I probably will just save all the music for this. So we're going to do our events, and I'm going to just hide these events here, the gear control, the markers, the enemy movement, the game controller. I'm going to add a new group. This one is going to be called level timers, or timer. Now in here I'm going to add a sub event. And at the start of the scene, we're going to set, that's not right, scene, at the beginning of a scene. At the beginning of a scene, we're going to set a level timer. So other actions, search, I'm going to search for timer. We want start or reset a scene timer, not an object timer, but a scene timer. It asks us for a name, and it tells us that a scene timer must be in quotes. It's because its name is a string, not a variable. I don't know why it does this, but it does need to be within quotes. I'm going to call it game timer, capital G, capital T, and click OK. So reset the timer, game timer, at the beginning of a scene. Now I'm going to add in a new event here, a new subcondition. Add new sub event. And this is going to be an always event, so I don't actually need a condition. I'm just going to add in an action. And we're going to change the text of level timer, modify the text, and this is going to be a little bit tricky here. Okay, so watch carefully. The first bit should be familiar to you from the previous part, and we're going to add, so that's like gems, colon, that's just the text that's displayed. But now we have to add in the value of the timer. And this took me a while to figure out. So we have to go to string, because it's going to be a number that we're getting and we need to convert it to a string. Timer, elapsed time, and then the name of the level timer, which I think I just called it game timer just then. You'll need 2 closing brackets, so 1 for each opening bracket. Just take a look at that carefully and make sure you've got it correct. It's not a big deal if you don't really understand at this stage what this is doing. And click OK. Now if we hit play, we should see that timer going up. Problem is that once it gets to 10, it's going to push the side bit off there. So let's go back and move these to the left a bit more. Now I haven't rounded these in any way, so you get this massive number at the end. I'm not going to worry about it, to be honest. I'm sure that there's a way I could fix it, but not easily for you. So don't worry about that. We're not worried. Okay, so here we go. Now this bit's done, and we need to make a change up here into the player control, because we need to make sure that when the player exits the level, that it immediately it saves the time that's there. So we're going to do that here, is in collision with the green door top. I'm going to get rid of this bit that says quit the game. We don't want it to quit the game anymore. We're past that. And we're going to say other actions. We're going to look for global variable, value of a global variable, level 1 timer. We're going to set it to the value of this time here. So it's going to be timer, elapsed time, game timer. Notice this is the same as what's in the other one, but we're not converting it to a string here. We don't need to yet. We'll do it later. And okay. And then I'm going to add an action here, which is going to be to change the scene. We're actually going to go to a room called end game. I haven't made that yet. Stop any other pause scenes, yes, and click OK. So what happens when we collide with the door top? It changes the level 1 time. I think it should be time, not timer. Level 1 time. Set it to the current game timer. Okay, now if I go back to here, go back to start page, I want to open this up. I want to make a new scene. I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to call it end game. And this scene is going to look like this. It's going to be very simple. You can design it how you'd like. Text. This is going to be level 1 time. That's the object name. Text level 1 time :0. And I'll put that in here, right in the center. If I can get in the center, that's good enough. Right, then we go to the events for this. And we're going to say when the scene has begun. At the beginning of a scene. At the beginning of a scene, we're going to set the value of the text, modify the text, set it to, and the value is going to be level 1 time, space, space, plus, and now we have to go global variable string, and the name of the variable is level 1 time. And we'll click OK. Now if we run this game now, what should happen, as long as I've got everything right, just have to put up with the music. Door opens, I go through here, and it records my time here. Now if you had multiple levels, what you would need to do is you would need to do this for each level. So each level would need to have its own global variable name. That should actually say level 1 time. I'm not even sure how that picked it up. It's kind of magic. So we'll go back to here. It should be level 1 time. Level 1 time there. It worked even though it shouldn't have. I think it's because when I did that down here, I used the actual name. So it created a global variable even though I didn't have it before. So that was just kind of lucky. So anyway, if you wanted to do more than one level, what you need to do is make sure that at the end of each level, instead of changing the scene to the end game, it goes to the next level. So change the scene to the name of the next level, and then the final level goes to end game. But whenever the exit for each level is touched, you change the global variable for that level. So level 2 time to time elapsed game timer. This down here can all pretty much be the same, except you might have text called level timer. So all of this can pretty much be the same. You're just setting a different global variable. And then on this one here, you would just have 3 or 4 different things for each level timer, and change the text of level 1 time to global variable string level 1 time. Change the text of level 2 time to etc. and so on. And that'll let you display all the times down in a list on the final thing, which you could screenshot and show, look, I'm the fastest at this level. So that is pretty much the end for this little tutorial. You'll be able to do a lot with this. You can make some really cool stuff with this, And there's lots of other things that some of you may have seen, like maybe being able to double jump, possibly being able to even wall jump. You could do things like that. If the player's touching a wall and they're in the air, then allow them to jump again, and then you can kind of do cool wall jumps. And there's loads of stuff that you can do and play around with in this. The next tutorial on GDevelop I'll be doing will be a top-down shooter style game, and so we'll look at that shortly. Those videos will be coming up in the next week.